So the other day, while I was listening to Pandora, I noticed that when I selected a station, the station gracefully animated to the top of the list. I wanted to try and recreate this animation because it wasn't obvious to me how it might be done. So at first I tried it in Angular 7, and I couldn't do it because there are a bunch of bugs relating to animations and ng for loops. So I decided to try and build the same kind of animation in Vue.js 2.5.21. And it turns out, after reading the documentation on animations and transitions, that this very type of animation is actually built right into the Vue.js API. To demonstrate, here's a list of movies, and I can move movies up, and you can see that there's a smooth transition as I move it up. I can move them down. Likewise, there's a smooth transition. I can move a movie completely to the bottom. I can move a movie completely to the top. And as I'm doing this, you're seeing that CSS classes are being applied to the list items that are being moved. So if I move one down, you'll see only a couple of items get moved around here. If I move it to the bottom, you'll see that all of the things get moved around. And what we'll see in the code in a second is that this feature requires almost no code on my part. Essentially, all I'm doing are moving these items around in an array, and animation is being handled almost entirely by Vue.js. So let's take a look at that code. So here is my transition group for my unordered list of movies. And you can see I'm looping over the movies in a movies collection, and I'm just creating a list item for each movie. Transitioned elements have to be keyed, but they also have to be keyed inside of a for loop, so that kind of does double duty there. And what you'll see is that when I go to move these items, essentially I have a couple of options here, up, top, down, and bottom. And if we jump down to the move method, you'll see that this method really does nothing more than find the index of the current movie, find the next index based on the destination or the direction that we're moving it in, splices out the current movie, then splices it back into the array at the given index, and then I'm storing the selected movie just to help a little bit with the CSS stacking order. And if you look at the rest of this component, you'll see that that's basically it. That's all I'm doing here. So I'm not calculating animation destinations, I'm not calculating offsets. All of the animation is just supported right out of the box with Vue.js. Now, the only thing we really have to do is apply a little bit of CSS based on the move class that's automatically injected by Vue.js. So if we jump down here to the transition group, you'll see that the name of the transition is movie. And so what Vue is going to do is add a movie-move CSS class during the transition. And that's where we get movie-move using our less CSS here. And I don't have to do anything really except provide the duration of the transition and the easing function. I'm not telling it which properties to do. All of that's already being handled by Vue.js. I'm simply giving it the duration, and then I'm also giving it the z-index so that the movie that's being transitioned will be above the rest of the elements in the list. Now, what this does is means that every moving element will be at a z-index of 2, which means that as I move this movie to the top of the list, the movies below it that are also transitioning will actually have a higher stacking order because they'll have a higher natural stacking order in the list, which is why I also have a selected class here, which is, again, if we jump down to the move, when you select a movie to move, I'm storing it as the selected movie. Then in the transition group, you'll see that the class movie-selected is being applied for the given selected movie. And the only reason I'm doing that is that I can apply an additional z-index style so that it rises just above all the other things that are moving. So all movies in transition get a z-index of 2, and the one that I happen to have selected for the target of the move is getting a slightly higher z-index, and that allows the movie to stay above the rest. And again, that's exactly it. There's really nothing else here that's worth noting other than Vue supports this right out of the box using flip animation techniques. Flip stands for first, last, invert, play, and essentially gets the location of the movie where it is, then gets the location of the movie where it's gonna be, and then animates between those two different locations automatically. And anyway, just super impressive. that this is so simple in Vue.js, especially compared and contrasted with Angular, which I couldn't even get this to work at all because of bugs. So hats off to Vue.js, pretty awesome. This entire post is somewhat moot because this is, again, just natively supported by Vue. It's actually in the documentation, and this is just essentially my experimenting with the very clearly defined animations in Vue.js.